For over 600 years, one single empire sat at the crossroads of the world, and it literally shaped the destiny of 3 continents. Today, we're going to break down the epic story of the Ottoman Empire, from its super humble beginnings to becoming a global superpower and, well, its eventual and really dramatic collapse.
First off, just to get a sense of the scale we're talking about here, the Ottoman Empire was around for 623 years. I mean, think about that. That is an incredible amount of time, covering everything from the end of the Middle Ages through the Renaissance and all the way up to the modern era. Its influence was just massive, and its story is nothing short of epic.
So, that leads us to the big question for today. How in the world did this one empire manage to dominate huge chunks of Europe, Asia, and Africa for more than 6 centuries? And, just as important, what on earth led to its final spectacular fall?
To answer that, you gotta go all the way back to the beginning. Our story doesn't start with some grand empire. Nope. It starts with a small Turkish state, what they called a beylik, just kind of nestled in the region of Anatolia.
And the name itself actually gives us our first clue. The word Ottoman comes directly from its founder, a pretty ambitious Turkish leader named Osman I. It was around the year 1299, in what we now call Turkey, that he laid the first stone for what would become a world-changing empire.
And believe me, the growth was fast. I mean, incredibly fast. Right after Osman got things started, his successors immediately started pushing into Europe. Throughout the 1400s, they just kept chipping away at the old, weakening Byzantine Empire, which set the stage for one of the most important years in world history, 1453.
All of that early expansion basically paved the way for the empire's golden age. This is the moment where the Ottomans go from being just a regional power to a full-blown global superpower. This is them at the absolute peak of their game.
In that new era, it all kicks off with this one date, 1453. This is the year Sultan Mehmed II does what so many thought was impossible. He brought these massive cannons, weapons that could just shatter medieval walls, and he conquered the legendary city of Constantinople.
Now, this wasn't just some local victory. This was a moment that changed the world. A lot of historians will tell you that the fall of Constantinople was the real end of the Middle Ages. The Ottomans renamed the city Istanbul and made it their brand new magnificent capital.
So after that conquest, things just exploded. The empire hit its absolute zenith under the reign of Suleiman the Magnificent. During this magnificent age, the empire was a total powerhouse. It expanded deep into Europe, its navy owned the Mediterranean, and it became this amazing hub for art and science. One of the keys to its success was a really strong legal system that actually allowed different religious communities to govern themselves, a structure that was crucial for holding such a huge, diverse empire together. But, as they say, no empire lasts forever. And after reaching such incredible heights, well, the long, slow process of decline started to creep in.
And that's the natural question, right? What happened? How does an empire that controlled so much of the known world just begin to come apart at the seams?
Well, a huge piece of the puzzle was leadership. The strength and the vision of rulers like Suleiman, that was eventually replaced by a long line of weaker and often pretty corrupt rulers. So military expansion turned into military defeats, and that incredible cultural flourishing, it slowly turned into economic stagnation.
And look, it wasn't just one thing. The decline was caused by a whole storm of issues. You had costly wars and internal revolts. Then European powers found new sea routes, which completely bypassed Ottoman lands and tanked their finances. Major military defeats of places like Lento and Vienna showed that the balance of power was shifting. And on top of all that, this new idea of nationalism was bubbling up, inspiring people in places like the Balkans to fight for their own independence.
By the time we get to the 19th century, the way people saw the empire had completely flipped. European powers started calling it by this famous, and let's be honest, pretty grim nickname, the Sick Man of Europe. It was a clear sign of just how far its power and influence had fallen.
So even though the decline was a long, slow burn, the actual end came really, really fast. The 20th century brought the final, decisive collapse.
World War I was the knockout punch. In 1914, the empire decided to side with Germany, and that decision proved to be fatal. After they were defeated in 1918, the victorious Allies just carved up the Ottoman lands. The end was officially in sight. Just 4 years later, in 1922, the Sultanate itself was abolished, and just like that, 6 centuries of Ottoman rule were over.
But out of the ashes of that dead empire, a brand new nation was born. led by a visionary military hero named Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. The Turkish War of Independence fought to establish the modern secular Republic of Turkey in 1923.
So, the empire's gone, but what did it leave behind? I mean, something that huge, that lasted that long, doesn't just vanish without a trace. Its legacy is deep, and you can still feel it all over the world today.
So where do we see it? Where can we feel the influence of this massive empire in our world? Well, the short answer is pretty much everywhere it ever touched. Seriously, its influence is all over the place in the regions it once ruled. It created this amazing cultural blend of Islamic, Turkish, and European traditions. Its incredible architecture, the mosques and palaces, still stand today as proof of its power. The food we eat in the Middle East and the Balkans, so much of that has Ottoman roots. And maybe most importantly, the political map of the modern world was, in a lot of ways, carved directly from the lands the Ottomans used to control. Which kind of brings us to our final thought here. The story of the Ottomans is this incredible tale of ascent, a stunning golden age, and then this long, complicated decline. It really makes you stop and ask, what can a 600-year-old empire, with all its wins and all its failures, teach us about power, about culture, and about change in our own world today?